finest gifts we bring, ba-rum-ba-bum-bum, to lay before the King, ba-rum-ba-bum-bum, rum-ba-bum-bum, rum-ba-bum-bum.
That's Jars of Clay and the Little Drummer Boy, one of my favorites, not so much because I love the song, but because it was my dad's favorite Christmas song. So I love it for that reason alone, and my son is one of the most accomplished drummers that I've ever been around, ever heard, and so I've got kind of an attachment to anything that has to do with that. So that's Little Drummer Boy, Jars of Clay. So as I said in the last segment, the GOP's only got two choices here in this fiscal debt ceiling, fiscal cliff crisis. And it's not whether they're going to look bad or look good. That is not an option for them because the media, they're ministers of propaganda for Barack Obama. So everything is going to be tilted his way. They're already being demonized as being all about the rich. They just want to protect the rich. They want to protect their fat cat cronies, despite the fact that the bulk of the vulture socialism going on right now is going on by Barack Obama handing out goodies to all of his rich buddies in the alternative energy field, just a way for him to pay back his donors. They give money to his campaign. He, in turn, gets all these $1 million grants from the Department of Energy for these destined to fail solar and wind projects and electric car projects. 20 of them have gone belly up. Almost every one of them a friend of Obama's that got millions and millions and millions of dollars from Obama's Department of Energy. It's just a giant money laundering scheme to take their campaign donations and get it back to them in the form of these grants that are guaranteed by the federal government. So if they wash out, no skin off their nose, they get their money. They get their big fat bonuses. They get their heavyweight salaries no matter what happens. So there's no way the GOP is going to come out looking good. So the only choice they have, do they look bad by being weak or do they look bad by being strong? And I would say that the way for them to go is if you're going to look bad, at least look bad by standing on principle. Don't cave, because that's even worse for you, because now everybody knows you're just a chump. Everybody knows you're a wuss. Everybody knows you've got no backbone. You've got no spine. There's nothing you stand for. You have no principles. Everybody sees that you've been played for a chump by Barack Obama, that he ran circles around you, tied you up in knots, and tossed you by the side of the road. Everybody will see that. Where is the possible gain or benefit or upside in that? There is none. So if you're going to look bad by being strong, standing on your principles, standing tall, standing strong. The American people will see that courage. They will stand with you. They will fight for you. They will stand at your side. You fold like a cheap tent, forget about it. They're gone. And that's where John Boehner is right now, frankly. I think he's in danger of just imploding the Republican Party. You know, I was looking at some of the reaction from some of these legislators that he dumped on. Here's Jim Jordan. He's head of the Republican Study Committee. He wasn't one that was bounced, but he said it's unfortunate and unhealthy for our party that principled conservatives are being punished for voting their consciences and keeping the promises they made to their constituents. That's what they were doing. They were voting the principles of the Republican Party platform, and they're getting punished for it by the leaders of their own party. Here's Justin Amash. He's writing this on his Facebook page, talking about him and Tim Huelskamp. Tim Huelskamp voted with me against the 2013 House budget resolution because it does not sufficiently address the federal government's debt crisis. So that's the current one. They voted against it because it doesn't do anything about the debt. That was one of only 3 times during this Congress that I voted against the chairman's recommendations in committee. I voted with the Republican chairman more than 95% of the time. I voted with the party's leadership more than 3/4 of the time on the House floor. But he went off reservation, bucked the leadership of the party on this fiscal cliff, and he's being punished. It is the night of the long knives. Karl Rove out there backing John Boehner to the hilt, $500,000 TV ad, going after Obama's tax plan. But here's the text. President Obama promised a balanced plan, but so far a huge tax increase is his solution. And the way it concludes, call President Obama and tell him it's time to show us a balanced plan. So Karl Rove, balanced plan means you have some spending cuts and you have some tax hikes. Let's play clip number 10. I set this up in the last segment, never got to it. Here's Charles Krauthammer, and our caller referred to this. Krauthammer basically saying the same thing. Look, that this is not about economics. That the position that President Obama has taken has nothing to do with economics. This is not about growing the economy. It's not about having a prosperous middle class. It's not about creating more jobs. It's about this. Let's listen.
There's one thing to understand. When we hear the president say, rates have to go up, there's no other way to make this work. This is a purely political statement. It has nothing to do with economics. His own commission, the Debt Reduction Commission that he appointed, identified $1.1 trillion of what are called tax expenditures, meaning loopholes and deductions out there available every year. So over a decade, that's $11 trillion of available revenues without raising rates. So all you need to do is to get less than 1 in 10 of those dollars, 1 in 10, and you've got $1 trillion in raised revenues without raising rates. The only reason the president insists on raising rates is because he knows it will destroy Republican unity. It will cause a complete fracture of the Republican majority in the House. It will hand him a Congress that he can then manipulate for the next 2 years at least, because the Republicans will be neutered. This is entirely a political action, a way to get a surrender from the Republicans. And then what will happen if he succeeds with this, with the fiction that you have to raise rates rather than eliminate loopholes, is he'll have a weakened Republicans, which will allow him to dictate all the terms of whatever entitlement or other reforms, if any, we will get in his second term.
So Charles Krauthammer, exactly right. This is not economic. It is political. Because President Obama is not interested in raising more revenue. He wants to raise rates. He's made it very clear, if we don't raise rates on the wealthy, no deal. And the reason he wants to raise rates is he not only wants to punish them, he wants everybody to know that he's punishing them. He wants it to be seen. He doesn't want this to be subtle. He doesn't want this to be through capping deductions or closing what are called loopholes or something like that. He wants everybody to know that he is sticking it to the man, sticking it to the upper income earners. Let's go to David in Hermantown, Mississippi. David, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hey, man.
Hey.
First, I want to tell you I love your show.
Thank you.
Your dogmaticness. And, I just love that about you, man.
Well, thank you.
Tell it how it is, and that's the way I believe you ought to tell how to cage cabbage and leave it there. Another thing, I wanted to mention something about our right to keep and bear arms, our Second Amendment rights.
Yes, sir.
And how pivotal that is with our founding fathers. One of the reasons they put that in there is for exactly what's happening, I believe, right now in our government and with Texas' attempt to secede from the Union. They wanted us to be able to defend ourselves, not just from any other enemy, but from our own government, because they knew where they came from. They didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have that ability. So they put it in our Constitution that we could be armed. So if our government got tyrannical, that we could arm ourselves and protect ourselves from our government.
All right, David, listen, I appreciate that. I talked about this some yesterday, but it bears repeating. Let me reread the words of the Second Amendment, because David's exactly right. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Everybody reads right over that. Nobody stops and ponders on the significance of that. Being necessary to the security of a free state with a capital S. Talking about each one of the 13 individual states. What's the point? We need to have our citizens armed so that every state can be secure. Protected from whom? Well, protected from other states, protected from hostile Indian tribes, and protected from a tyrannical central government. Let's go to Larry in Wilmington, North Carolina. Larry, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yeah, give me a second here.
Yeah.
Number one, they need to get Jim DeMint in there as Speaker of the House and get Boehner out of there.
Well, now, Jim DeMint's a senator, so we're going to have to...
Right. I'm sorry, you're right, he's a senator. Well, here's my real point, though. What we need, the only thing that's going to happen to save this country is to have four parties. You need to have a conservative Republican Party, a moderate Republican Party, moderate Democrats, and the liberal Democrats. Four parties.
Yeah, you know, and in essence...
There's hardly no difference between the moderate Republican and a liberal Democrat.
Yeah.
There's not that much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just a label.
You're talking about Obama. He's not that smart. In my opinion, he's not that smart at all. The Republicans in this last campaign are so stupid. I mean, Obama gave them all the information to have him voted out. He said on television, he said, I'm for high energy. He said, I want gasoline at $10 a gallon. He said, let people get used to it when it got to $4 a gallon. And on the oil, people that he said was going up 20% this winter, those people are going to have to use oil. He gave them all kind of ammunition to get them kicked out. Even back when McCain ran against him, he had ammunition. But the Republicans are gutless. He's a socialist, Obama is. But John McCain, he's such a coward, he won't call him a socialist, and he won't call him a liar, but Obama's quick to call McCain a liar, or Mitt Romney, see? And we need people in there with backbone and get rid of the moderate Republicans. But I'm in favor of this right here. Now, been voting for Republicans since Reagan. I changed to an independent this last time.
Well, and I appreciate that. I'm going to have to let you go because we're up against the end of the hour, hard break, and got the news coming up. But, I was looking at a survey about Hispanics because there's been a lot of conversation how to get the Hispanic vote. And I don't know where that story is. It's in my stack somewhere. I can find it. But basically, we're saying that Hispanics self-identify as conservatives. 27% of them identify themselves as conservatives. Only 14 identify themselves as liberals. But only 14% of Hispanics belong to the Republican Party, even though twice as many say that they're conservative. Why is that? It's because the Republican Party is not conservative enough to speak for them. This poll said, look, they're pro-life and they're pro-marriage. In other words, if the GOP wants to get the Hispanic vote, sound the values message. Pro-life, pro-marriage. Hispanics love it.
American Family Radio.